Let's take a closer look at the Gearloc's turn sequence in Too Many Bones. The very first thing that you can do in the Gearloc's turn sequence is use your loot cards. Now, unless otherwise specified, you can use a loot card anytime during your turn, even before triggering effects. And the reason the last part is very important is in situations just like this. So in this situation, we have two baddies on the mat. There's been some poison inflicted on Boomer. Boomer is going to take 1 damage in the second step of the Gearloc's turn sequence, which is going to trigger a poison damage, knocking Boomer out as Boomer only has 1 HP remaining under her Gearloc chip. The only way to prevent this at this current time is to potentially use a loot card if we have it. I just so happen to have a card like Mixed Berries. This card allows me to heal myself for 3 HP in battle, which is where we currently are, or 5 HP outside of battle. So even though I probably prefer to use the 5 HP out of battle and get the better of the two different options, in this situation I don't want to have Boomer get KO'd, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to heal myself for 3 HP. I have to discard this card as it's considered a single-use card. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and take a quick look at Boomer's max health, which is 4, and just ensure that the health we're healing her up to does not exceed that, and it doesn't. It ends up being a total of 4, so we're okay there. Now, the second step of the Gearloc's turn sequence is to now effects trigger at this point, and that poison is going to inflict 1 damage and be removed off her chip. Thankfully, because of the mixed berries, we were able to keep Boomer alive, and she is not at risk of being KO'd or would have been KO'd without those mixed berries. The third thing that happens in the Gearloc's turn sequence is you can move, and as long as you're not moving diagonally, you can use all of your total dex between your stat die and your starting number. You can move anywhere on the map that you desire as long as you're moving in nothing resulting in diagonal movement. So you can move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You could move all the way up to into the back here. Now, these wouldn't be strategically smart decisions with a character or Gearloc like Boomer, because Boomer is a ranged character, or Gearloc, and in this particular instance, she's able to attack any baddie on the mat from any position. So the smartest thing for her, with her low health in comparison to the larger baddies on the field, is to get as far away from them as possible, because this melee character can get to her on the next coming baddie turn. So it would be wise of her to spend 2 of her 5 decks and actually move into the far corner. This would allow her to keep far enough away from the baddies that they won't be able to inflict damage. At least this one. This one here is ranged, so you won't be able to do anything about that. Once you've moved your Gearloc, just keep track of the fact you used a certain number of decks. So in this case, we used 2 decks, so we'll only be able to use 3 decks going forward inside of this Gearloc's turn sequence. The next thing you do, and this is very important, is to determine your target of attack. In almost every case, you're going to be determining a target of attack because you always want to be inflicting damage during a battle. But it's very important to pick which target you're actually attacking prior to gathering your dice and rolling to avoid confusion in the general gameplay. So in this case, I want to go after the only character I believe can hit me on the map currently is the Kobold Tracker in the back here, the ranged character or ranged baddie. So I'm going to be choosing to target this particular character, so I'm declaring that now. Now at this point, we would go ahead and we would gather up our defense and our attack dice. And essentially your remaining decks, as we talked about, represents how many dice you may roll. And again, we can mix that with the defense, attack, or stat dice. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and use 1 attack and 2 of the 3 defense, giving me a total of 3 dice in hand, which is all I have left from my decks because we've already used 2 before it. So there we go. We got 1 attack dice and 2 defense dice. Now at this point, we go ahead and we roll our dice to see what happened, knowing that we're attacking this character or this baddie in the back here. Okay, so we've rolled an attack of 2, a defense of 2, and a bone. Now this is considered resolving the roll. So after your dice are rolled, you can do a number of things in any order, in no particular order, essentially. You can resolve target damage and effects, so you can total up and apply all the damage and any other damage results of effects from your skills to your target. So that could be something like this. I could choose, I want to go ahead and resolve all the target damage that I'm doing against this particular baddie. So we could go ahead and do that if we want. The second thing you can do is you can resolve non-target damage and effects. Some skills may apply to non-target baddies. Others may be instant skills that do not apply to baddies at all. Go ahead and use these skills as desired. Now, when they're talking about skills, they're talking about skill dice, because skill dice can have special effects. So you want to reference your Gearloc sheet to determine what they can actually do to the baddies on the field. Some allow you to hit multiple baddies, that type of thing. You want to reference those because it's just not necessarily always the dice that you rolled in your attack and defense that do damage. It sometimes can be also extra abilities on the side. The third thing is to allocate active, locked, and backup plan dice. So you can actually strategically think about how you want to go ahead and use dice that are sitting in these three areas: active, lock, and backup plan. Now in my case, I have no active dice, no lock dice, but I have a whole bunch of bones inside of my backup plan, meaning gives me options against this particular enemy. So let's go ahead and resolve the dice that I have in front of me. Now, in terms of effects and anything extra for Boomer, she's just going to simply resolve the dice that she rolled. What I'm going to go ahead first off and do is add the bone that I rolled to my backup plan. So I'm choosing to put that in there. I'm going to go ahead and take my 2 shields that I rolled and put that into the active slot. Now I have 2 attack, essentially, or 2 damage to inflict against the Kobold Tracker. But what I have to do really quickly is take a quick look and reference the skills on this particular Kobold Tracker are Hardy and Compound. Hardy has an ability, or Hardy, it says, any turn this unit takes damage to its HP, including true damage, the total is reduced by 1. So by making this 2 damage attack, Hardy's going to take 1 away, meaning I only hit that particular Kobold Tracker for 1 damage, and now this die is resolved. So we'll go ahead and take that HP off. Now you'll notice I wasn't able to kill it. It still has 1 HP, but remember we talked about that backup plan. So at this point you can take a look at your backup plan and decide if you have something worthwhile using. In this case, Boomer has a backup plan ability that has a throw ends. And this says thwack the target for 3 damage. The reason I'm choosing this one instead of this one is because of the baddie's ability of Hardy to block the damage coming at him. So I'm going to go ahead and use throw ends, and it's just going to actually cause me to end up spending 1, 2, 3, 4 bones in order to do this thwack, but it guarantees that I'm able to knock it out. And of course, all the rest of the backup plan bones are shuffled down the mat. This is actually going to inflict 3 damage against this particular Kobold Tracker. The Kobold Tracker is able to block 1, but can't block the other 2 coming through, and that is considered a knockout, and we've got ourselves our first baddie off the battle mat.